Hi, Candice. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, of course. Thank you for having me.
I want to start with a very simple question.
Mhm.
Where are you from and where do you live now?
I'm originally from Marin County, right outside of San Francisco. Well, if we're getting really original, I'm from San Francisco. I was born there and was there until I was 3, and then I moved to the suburbs. I now live in New York City, Manhattan.
What's your favorite place in the world?
I think I love my house that my mom lives in right now, and it used to be my grandparents' house. I just have so many memories there, and I think it's so special to everyone in my family. Not necessarily the actual house, but like the garden of that house, probably my favorite place in the world. Yeah, I'll stick with that answer.
What's something that you are most proud of?
My relationships, not just romantic relationships, but my friendships. I think I have some really great friends that I've had for most of my life.
So, what was the experience of writing a book like?
I loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm got my start in my career as an internet writer, and I still write a lot on the internet, and it's very condensed. You want to try to keep it quick. It's usually under 1,000 words, like very fast articles. It was so nice to get to do something that's just like completely in my own voice. For starters, it's not for another publication where I'm kind of like trying to meet someone else's brand guidelines. It's really just me. I really believe in it. And I get to dive deep and like talk to so many different people and explore something I'm interested in. So I can't wait to write more books. I really, really loved the experience of that.
Was there any challenge that you faced in this process?
Yeah, for sure. I think even like getting a book deal is very challenging. I spent a lot of time working on the proposal. It didn't take me very long to get an agent, but I guess looking back, it was only 3 months. But like those 3 months of getting rejected over and over again, you're like, oh my God, this is horrible. I thought this would go so fast. In the end, it worked out, and I loved the publishing house that I wound up working with. But no, it's definitely like it's a bruise to the ego.
When you felt rejected, how did you keep yourself inspired?
It's like two things. I think on the one hand, and I talk about this in my book, like with romantic rejection, I think it's so like a knee-jerk reaction to take rejection so personally, whether it be like a guy rejected you or like a job didn't want you, or for me, like a publishing house didn't want my book. But I think it's reminding yourself that like these things are so subjective. Like it could be one person's least favorite book, it could be one person's favorite book, it could have worked for someone and not for someone else. So for me, that was like in terms of just like my ego and like my own personal situation, like that was very helpful for me to remind myself of that. The other thing I did was I just started working on other projects, and that for me, like when you ask what I'm the most proud of, like I'm so happy that I wrote a book and that was so fun, but like the final product isn't necessarily that important to me. It's more just like the process of it was enjoyable for me. And I really try to focus on process. And I think it's so important for anyone who's doing anything that's in the arts. Like you have to remind yourself always, because especially if you're doing it as your career, it can be really hard to get caught up in like the results and if people like it and how it's perceived and things like that. So I just started new projects, and that was really helpful for me.
So, your book is about dating and relationships. So, I'm curious, what's a perfect date night for you?
I live in Manhattan, as I said, so like I would love to go to like there's so many great restaurants. We go try out. Maybe we get drinks somewhere before. I'm like classic, like drink somewhere before. Go to a great restaurant. It's a summer night. Maybe we can sit outside. Go for a walk around the city. Do some people watching, and be home early would be ideal.
That actually sounds really nice.
Yeah, lots of conversation. I like talking, no phones. Quality time is my love language, so that's nice for me.
And what's a dating pet peeve for you?
I don't like people who fish for compliments. Like people who like put themselves down and are trying to get you. Like I'm just a nice guy. I never get it. Like I hate that sort of like passive aggressive insecurity. I don't like it. I don't feed into it. And I just felt like it would happen a few times and I just, ugh, like it grossed me out. I hated it.
As someone who has written a book on the topic, what's a creative way for people to continue dating during this pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, I think the obvious, not creative way is dating apps, and I strongly believe in them. And I think they are literally factually the most popular way to meet people. So there's no reason not to do that, especially in a pandemic when everyone's doing it. I think it's just like you got to be more forward. Like, if you're really trying to meet someone, like, it's not like you have that chance of like being at the pack. I mean, maybe if you're like in Texas or Florida, you do, but like, for a lot of people, like you don't have that chance to like be at the packed bar or to do this or that where you're like really mingling with people and meeting people. So I think like if you're at a table at a restaurant and you see someone sitting at another table and you otherwise may not have under normal circumstances said anything, if you thought they were cute, shoot your shot. Now's the time. You just got to do it. If you're not up for doing things on dating apps, this is kind of like your only other option, to be a little more forward than you otherwise might have been.
What are your top three all-time favorite books?
I loved Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Lori Gottlieb.
Oh, I love that
I
book.
loved that book. I read it at the beginning of the pandemic and I just loved it so much. Another one, this is another one that I just recently read, but Tell Me Lies by Carola Lovering. That was just like so gripping and like her descriptions were so good. And then I'll go with like a classic book that I love. I loved The Joy Luck Club.
And for our last question, if you were to pick one interesting life experience to share with us today, what would you tell us?
My dad and I have a very special, close relationship just in general. But growing up, at first, he would take me to Disneyland every year. And then we started going to a different country every year together. And I think that without even realizing it, that was something that really shaped me, shaped the way I see the world. Just the way he travels in general is very like you make friends with local people and we'd like do all of these things and like it's not like just touristy, like it was very like immersing ourselves in the cultures of like all these very different places, from like Dubai to Paris to Auckland, New Zealand, to just like all over the place, and just all of the like friends all over the world that we made. And I think opening my eyes up to like how large and yet small at the same time the world is, and how many experiences we share that are so similar, and things here that feel so weird might not be as weird in other countries. And I don't know, I think that really shaped just who I am and how I see the world. And I think it was an interesting experience that I got to have, that I was fortunate enough to have. And sharing it with my dad was very special and probably integral to who I am. So I'm going with that, but I probably have something more interesting to say.
But that definitely is a great experience. Thank you for answering my 11 questions. And
That was
now I want to talk about your book.